Thanks for joining us, Alvin. It's such a delight to have you with us.
Thank you, Leslie.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Take us through your earlier years back in the country there. How was that?
Well, it's very interesting that you should ask me to go back to the beginning. The beginning years, I couldn't see. I was in my mother's belly. It was dark and wet in there.
Oh my God.
And I take you there because my challenges began in my mom's belly. Somebody wanted to kill me.
Really?
An uncle said to my mother, "Why don't you have an abortion and spare us of the embarrassment?"
Why?
See, I wasn't a normal child. My mom was pregnant when she was about 16 years old, and it was a shame in the family.
Okay.
And one of my relatives wanted to kill me so that I would not embarrass the family. That's where my trouble started, when I couldn't even defend myself. I'm thankful my mother ran away and had this little boy. So you can imagine that when the normal child is coming out, they paint the room blue if it's a boy and have all kinds of gifts and cribs waiting. That's not how I came into the world. Parents were mad at the family, at my mom, and it seemed like mad at me. Family was embarrassed that the little girl would get pregnant. My father could not come into the place where we lived because he had violated the family standards, and so I didn't have a father at home. And when my mom eventually went back home to live with her parents, it was always a point of embarrassment to think that she had gotten pregnant. So I just kind of lumped out and joined a family that was not ready for me, didn't want me to come. And so you skip a few years, I am growing up in Kingston, Jamaica. I was born at University Hospital in Kingston, Jamaica. And my concept of a father was somebody who would come to 50 Ricketts Crescent across from Maxfield Park,
Yes.
one of the downtrodden areas of Kingston.
Yes, yes.
That's where I remember growing up, and at about age 4, 5, 6, my father would come to the gate because he was not able to come in and have a conversation with me across the fence.
Yes.
And he'd put his hand in his pocket and give me some money to buy candy and so forth. One day he did that. He gave me the equivalent of $50 in Jamaican currency, shook my hand and said, "Goodbye, son." Now, my father had never shaken my hand before. I didn't know what that meant when I was age 6. And the only thing I can recall to tell you is that since that day, I've not laid my eyes on my father.
That was your last
I
goodbye?
have not laid my eyes on my father. He disappeared, poof, out of my life, gone. And so I figured father was here for a little while, father doesn't exist anymore. Now, as if that were not bad enough, 2 years later, my mother put us in a car and took us to a place called Airport. 6 years old I was, never had seen, or 8 years old or so, as best I can recall. I'd never seen a place like that with big iron birds. I thought it was a carnival or a fair.
Norman Manley Airport?
That was called Norman Manley Airport. Or at least at the time it was called Palisadoes Airport.
Well,
yes.
That was before my time.
I'm a little over 29. Well, I was enjoying these big iron birds, and then I looked up and my mom was crying, and I thought, that doesn't make any sense. She bent down, she hugged me, and she said, "Goodbye, son." Second parent said, "Goodbye, son." And for the rest of my childhood, I did not see her. I was 20 years old before I saw my mom again. I don't know if you know any families where there's a little child who doesn't belong and they try to shove him off on a cousin over here and an auntie over here and some place over there. I was living like that. They just needed to find a place for me. And there was a point at which I found myself living in St. Mary on the eastern side of Jamaica with an uncle and an aunt. Now that was very interesting, by the way. My uncle was a dreadlocks. Rasta man. And what was particularly interesting about my Uncle Vincent, as I lived with him and Aunt Edna, was that he was a vegetarian. Now, Destine, you don't know vegetarians. My Uncle Vincent was a vegetarian of the real sort. In the morning, he had marijuana. In the lunchtime, he had marijuana. And at dinner, he had ganja.
What?
Total vegetarian.
No,
I have never smoked a spliff, but I think I've inhaled enough secondhand smoke to make me dizzy.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because I think there are times when his head took him a certain way. And I remember one day when he beat me into a pulp.
Really?
He beat me with his hand, he beat me with his stick, he beat me with his foot.
Time?
I was probably 10 years old or so. It's hard to tell now looking back, but I think I must have been about 10 years old. And the abiding memory of that encounter was I was sitting outside in the yard, hugging myself like this and shivering, and watching a drop of my blood dry up in the dirt. There's a little globule of blood, and I just to have something to fixate, and I saw the dust coming up and sucking the moisture out of my blood as I sat there just shivering, until his wife, Aunt Edna, came and rushed me to the emergency room to save my life.
So what did you do to deserve all that beating?
I was a child. I was given dishes to wash, and the back of my yard had a big railway track that ran close to it, and there was a big train, and he had given me work to do. Now, at 10 years old, which one do you find more interesting? A big train going by or washing dishes, right? So he came back, and the dishes may not have been washed properly or quickly enough, and he was angry.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
And so I was in that situation where I was physically beaten up a lot and told that I was worthless and would come to nothing. I love my home, I love Jamaica, and yet I know that we Jamaicans are tough on children, and we're tough on ourselves, and our language is rugged. When someone makes a mistake, we curse and we complain and we tell them to shut your mouth, you're not going to come to anything, boy. You're worthless, you're greedy, you're whatever it is. And it beats children down.
Yes.
The question is, why did it not beat me down? I mean, it did beat me down, but it did not keep me down. In looking for some place to stay, I eventually went to live with my mother's mother in a place called Frankfield, Clarendon. And that little old lady who had not graduated from high school taught me words that saved my life. She said, boy, how are you so funny? You must have fallen from the sky. I believed her.
What's her name?
Miss Daisy.
Miss Daisy.
Miss Daisy. She said, boy, you're a wonderful young man. I believed her. She said, boy, when you grow up, you're going to be a very powerful man. I believed her. When I used to get in fights at school and lose my fights and come home crying because the children would tease me, she said, boy, don't worry about those children. They can only see the outside of you. You look like a caterpillar right now, but if you just trust in God, if you do your work, if you're disciplined, if you stay away from the children who want to do bad things, if you learn everything you can from your teachers, you're going to grow up and be a butterfly one day. You're going to learn to fly. And I believed her.
That's Grandma Daisy.
That's Grandma Daisy. Now, I go to that story because I don't know if it's happened in your life. I suspect it's happened in the life of somebody who is watching this or listening to me. You go through trials, you go through trauma, you go through tribulation in your life. You have people around you who beat you down. You have to have one person at least who speaks life into you, who tells you there's hope. When you fall down, you have to have somebody who reaches down and says, no, you can make this. I know you're better than this. You're going to do fine. Because if you don't have that person, you're going to be staying there because you can't pick yourself up when you're weak. I had a little old lady who picked me up with her words when I was weak. And she's the reason why I'm sitting here today. Because I have friends who came through the same kind of lifestyle, and most of them, I can't think of one who made it, not having had somebody in his or her life to say you're going to make it.
Yes.
So words are powerful, yeah? And so that's where we started. When I was living with my grandmother, as much as she gave me life in words and hope and encouragement, she didn't have much else to give because, as you indicated, we didn't have electricity for 20 years of my life. I went through 5th form in high school studying by lamplight. I mean, when I say lamplight, I mean those who know Jamaica's home sweet home, that's what it was. And we didn't have an inside toilet, we didn't have running water. I used to carry water in a big kerosene tin on my shoulder, on my head, from down 2 doors down from a lady who had a pipe stand, we called it. And so we have something fresh to drink. I lived next to the Rio Minno River. I'd shower and have a bath and have a swim in the Rio Minno River. Now, you listen to that and you might think it's a sad story. You know the irony of it all? I was the happiest child I had ever met. Now, how can that be?
Yes.
And the reason is because of the hope that was given to me by the words that one day life was going to be good. So I saw all of that as a sort of passing phase.
Yeah, something to hang on.
Yeah. And even though we didn't have sophisticated clothing and fancy foods, there were fruit trees in the country. There were people in the neighborhood who take care of the children. It wasn't a big city and so forth. So I was growing up with hope that the future would come. And so I would say, anybody who's going through difficulties today, the difficulties don't have to take you down if you have a hope for a future that's brighter. Because that's what kept me alive. Yes. There were times when I was very miserable with myself, when I thought the world was unfair and I thought the world was coming down on me. And I would go to bed as a child saying, it's okay. It's okay. When my father comes back, I'm going to tell him. Now, my father never came back. But I lived in that moment hoping for a future that was better. You see? And so it's the future that guides us through the present when the present is rough. That's what I've come to learn. It takes a sort of crazy head to deny the realities of present time. The thing around you is broken. There's no money. There is pressure.
No food.
And you pull yourself up and you go, it's okay, I'm gonna make it through here. Tomorrow's gonna be better, And tomorrow may be lousy. But when you get to tomorrow, it becomes today, and you start looking to the day beyond that and say, it's going to be better, it's going to be better. And that hope keeps people alive.
Keep you alive. Hope really keeps you alive.
Because you run out of hope, you're dead. You either kill yourself or you die walking like a zombie. And that's the story of how I started.
You went to Edwin Allen High?
The greatest high school God ever invented.
Okay, how was the life at Edwin Allen? How was life at Edwin Allen?
Because I lived in a town where many of the houses did not even have electricity. Edwin Allen was like a city on a hill. At Edwin Allen, the windows of the world were opened to me. I went to the library and read books and saw pictures of the world. Snow falling on top of cars, mountains, the wall of China. Black people, red people, white people, pink people. And I thought, what an amazing world. I would study photographs for hours thinking one day I'm going to be there, I'm going to travel, I'm going to see this, I'm going to touch this. And it lit me up, and I learned literature from Elizabethan England to across the Caribbean, and everywhere I could I read, and it just gave me this incredible view of reality. Reading and studying and learning principles. That place was a window to the world. Yes. Education is really critical, particularly in the formative years, because irrespective of what home life is like, how much trouble we have, and how unfair we might think our parents and our significant others to be, when you get to books, they can open you like something taking you to outer space, the possibilities, and again, that gives hope. Because when I am suffering, there's a part of the world that's not, and I keep yearning for that part of the world.
Just like when one section of the world is having day, one is having night.
That's correct. Yes. That's correct. I was living in Cincinnati, Ohio, and that came to life. It was very muggy and murky and dark and brown that morning. There was no sun. It was ugly. And I was on my way to some place like Chicago, I don't remember where. And I was in the plane feeling like depressed because it was morning and it was drizzly and dark. And I sat in the plane, and the plane went and ran and took off. And it was a surrealistic experience, very surreal, because at a certain point it got really dark with white clouds around me. And then I popped out of the clouds, and it was the most beautiful, brilliant, sunshiny day that you could imagine, crisp, with the architecture of the clouds just floating below me like that. And I thought, wait a minute, if you are down here and you say it is dark and ugly, that's not true. It's not that it is dark and ugly, it's that the beautiful sky is temporarily being covered by something that is wispy that you can even pass through. And it gave me instructions about my life. It's not that it's rainy and ugly. It's that the beautiful light which is always there, the sun is always shining, even when it's behind the earth from where you are. If you can see that it is there, then the darkness of the moment is just a temporary thing, because nothing can put out the sun. And again, it gives me the power to say, wait a minute, this rain's passing. It's not rainy. Right now the rain is here, and it's going somewhere else. True. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. So the thing that kept me to be the happiest child I'd ever met was, now in retrospect, a sort of philosophy that says that happiness is not a function of happenings. Because I can deny happenings. I can look through catastrophe and go, no. There's something good in here. There's something I can learn from this. This is not permanent. This is passing. Because I can see that beyond the clouds, the sun is still shining. I just have to put myself in a position where I can go through that same thing that I thought was so ugly. I can go through it to get to the sunlight. I like the idea of flying. That's why, this book you talked about, if caterpillars can fly, so can I. Because that which is available to you is only available if you see it enough to fly to it. Because not always does it come to you. You have to go up.
So at Edwin Allen, were you a disciplined child, stick to your work and academically sound and stuff?
I would love to say yes. I would love to say yes. I would love to tell you that I was a model student. I got in trouble all the time. Oh, gracious. You and Peart and I ended up in Miss Burke's office because we were fighting. And Miss Burke threatened to beat both of us, and left us in there to go look for a strap, and we almost caught a fight in the staff room waiting for the woman to come back and beat us again. I loved Spanish. I was good at Spanish. And then they introduced the preterite, the past tense in the Spanish, and I started getting poor grades. And I went to my principal's office. He called me and he said, Mr. Day, what's going on with your Spanish? You're supposed to be a good student. And I said, Mr. Latti, Spanish it's gotten really hard since the portrait, but I'm trying my best, Mr. Lucky.
Yes.
And at age 16, I walked out of my principal's office with him saying, well, I'm sorry, your best is not good enough. You have to do better. I'm like, what the heck is my principal telling me? And I'm like, what, this school thing's crazy, right?
Even mean?
Yeah, what does it even mean? So I got into all kinds of trouble and so forth, and but not the kind of trouble that kids get into these days of cutting each other and so forth. I got into fights, and I often used to lose my fights because when I had the upper hand and I remember I had a girl between my legs and I was going to punch her in her face because I had the upper hand. And I thought, oh God, I can't hit her in her face. It's going to mash up her face. And the moment I hesitated, she flipped me and beat me up in the fight. The moment I hesitated, because I had to think, I can't hit somebody there. And then I've seen people fighting who fight like they are at war and they want to kill each other, and they win. So I didn't have the heart to do that.
The killer instinct.
I didn't have the killer instinct to hurt people
Once
like that.
you have them down, you have to finish them out.
Yeah. So, and then I would be the one who would get caught and get punished for things and so on. So, I had a childhood that was like other children.
But in regards to the Spanish, I guess that love stuck with you throughout your later years because you went on and further fairly well mastered Spanish to a level.
Yes, as a matter of fact, this is one of the high points of my life. I dreamed daily as a child of speaking Spanish and speaking German and speaking Italian. I listened to my grandmother's shortwave radio. Now, we don't get this these days. Being over 29, I used to listen to shortwave radio. And I dreamt of it. And one day I found myself in Cali, Colombia, in front of Colgate Palmolive, a multifunctional team of about 15 people. And it was my job with that assignment now as a management consultant. And I'm jumping ahead now.
Yes, that's fine.
And something that I dreamt about for years happened. I was introduced to a group of 15 people, many of whom did not speak English. And I was going to be there for 3 days, teaching them how to sell toothpaste and mouthwash and things of oral care. And I introduced myself. The moment when I introduced myself, it was incredible. I said, damas y caballeros, muy buenos días. Me llamo Alvin Day. Yo soy un jamaiquino loco. Me gusta mucho esta oportunidad de comunicar con ustedes. Etcétera, etcétera, etcétera. And I thought, oh man, it's like goosebumps. I dreamt of doing that. I started out a meeting by introducing myself in Spanish. Oh gosh, I'm crazy. I imitate everything I hear. I take Spanish in class. I get in trouble in my Spanish class because my teacher comes around and says, Alvin, you are reading a book under the desk. And she pick up her whip and I go, miss, it's a Spanish book.
It's a Spanish book.
I'm in Spanish class, bored with her. She's teaching me, reading a Spanish novel. I am consuming the thing.
Okay.
So I'm a little crazy about that. Whenever I'm interested in something, I consume. And I learn on the street. I go to university, I study it and so forth. And I'm fortunate to be able to work in Cali, Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia, in Barcelona, in Spain, in Puerto Rico, in different places where I don't speak English for several days. So I learn fast. What can I tell you?
Yes, because the surroundings.
The surroundings, yes.
So, yeah.
And it just reinforces in me that we can't give up because things are rough right now. We have to yearn for the future. And when we yearn for the future, sooner or later we're going to break through and achieve a dream. And when we achieve a dream, after a while, it becomes normal. So now I'm not satisfied with knowing Spanish. I really need to learn French because I should have done it earlier. And now I'm looking at French and saying, wow. And I'm going to start doing that. I'm studying Italian right now. That's the problem. Yeah. So all of this wonderful childhood growing up came to an abrupt end. One Sunday morning, I was told my grandmother was dead. And everything crashed.
Grandma Daisy.
Grandma Daisy dead. She took a bus. From Frankfield, check herself into the university hospital and never came back out. And everything just stopped for me. I couldn't live in the house anymore. I never wanted to go live in America, but I needed to find a place to escape. I couldn't be in that place where my friend and my nurse and my supporter and all of that stuff was not there anymore. She knew. She took off her married ring after being married for some 50 years, gave it to me and told me which one of her daughters to give it to. I thought it was, she doesn't want anybody to steal it in the hospital. She never came out. And so I decided to go to Wisconsin where my mother was living, and at age 20, I saw my mother for the first time since childhood and went to the University of Wisconsin, and everything was changing. Good night. I found myself in a university with 25,000 students, 99.9% of them white. They speak funny, they look funny, they sound funny, they eat funny. I went to a restaurant and I had some friends, newly acquired friends, and we were going to order from a menu, and I thought, I don't recognize anything on the menu. So let me look, and I don't want to feel stupid or look stupid, so I found something, it said cheese, and I ordered it and spat it out. It was called cottage cheese, rotten mix-up soured milk. There's nothing on the menu that made sense to me. It was a bizarre thing. So snow began to come down in Wisconsin, and it's not the little droplets that you might see on TV. In Wisconsin, the snow comes down like this. Big leaves, incredible leaves that pile up to 6 feet sometimes on the sidewalk, and they use a machine to cut a channel through it so you can walk. I go to Chicago and my knees freeze, and I think I've lost my mind.
Yes, I'm not used to that.
No, not used to that. And I was in this shocking adjustment to the world about which I had dreamt all my life. This place is rough, called Wisconsin. But you know, I adapted, I adjusted. And went through the University of Wisconsin, got a couple of degrees, and got hired by a Fortune 50 company. This little boy from the countryside of Jamaica began to learn big business from the inside out. Started out as a sales representative, grew to be a manager, became a regional manager, got promoted, became a project manager, began to run a big business at headquarters in Cincinnati, Ohio with P&G, and learned about the movement of money and goods and commodities and so forth. I did that for about 10 years, went to work for another company called Bristol Myers Squibb, learned about that, and then I kept this dream of a child in me was, this is wonderful, but there's more. I have an insatiable appetite for more. I get bored easily. Yes. I'll tell you this, if ADHD had been invented in the days of my childhood, they would have drugged me. Fortunately, they hadn't come up with that disease yet. But I had it. I mean, I need action. I get bored easily, and so after a very successful career at P&G and Bristol Myers Squibb, and getting awards for things they had not seen or expected from me, I have to start my own business. And one day I jumped out and started my own business. I was very fortunate because starting a business is not easy. I became a management consultant. I connected with a few guys who were doing the same thing. The first year I got out of business, I quadrupled my income. And it got to be fun. And I started traveling the world. And this thing about flight, I was sitting on airplanes a lot. This thing about flight is something I love. I'm holding in my hand a book that I wrote, the one that you mentioned. And I did not intend to write this book. In my business, occasionally I found myself in front of an audience talking about concepts of life and success. And people would say, may I buy your book? And I'm going, what book? I'm asking. So yeah, the stuff you're talking about. Where's your book? Where's your tape? Where's your audio? And I thought, I don't have one. And after a while it occurred to me, the marketplace is talking. So I sat for 2 years to write this book. I thought it was going to be easy. It took me 2 years, like giving birth to a slow child. Or a child coming out slowly. And I got very nervous. I didn't know what people would do with it. And I am blessed and fortunate to tell you that this book has saved lives and changed lives in ways that are beyond me. I'm trying to live up to this book called If Caterpillars Can Fly, So Can I.
You are trying to live up to
I'm trying to live up to the book that I wrote. Okay. I discovered some things. I didn't make up anything in here. I discovered some things. You know, it's interesting to me that scientists do not make truth. They discover truth, right? So somebody discovered the process of flying an airplane. It means that the Wright brothers discovered how to fly airplanes, which means airplanes could fly before they discovered it.
Yes.
Because the prefix "dis" is the same as "on," so they uncovered the truth. And what I did was I uncovered some things that have been here. I read somebody from the year 4000 BC, before Christ, who has everything in this book. His name is Ptahhotep, P-T-A-H-J-O-T-E-P, or H-O-T-E-P, and he was an Egyptian high priest. And I thought, good gracious, this has been around for a while, but not commonly spoken about. And so somehow the light came to me about the principles of life and success and the power to walk through fire without getting burned and the power to carry water in a basket if you have to. It's written in very simple 8th grade language. Schools are putting it in for 10, 11, 12-year-olds, and adults read it 8 times, they tell me sometimes. It's beyond me. There are times when I open my mouth and say something to my wife, Grace, and she said, you can't say that to me. I'm going, why? She said, because in your own book you said, and I'm trying to live up to what I wrote, because I just discovered it.
That's why you said that.
Yeah, I'm trying to live up to it. So, I share something with you. The adjustment that it took for me to go from where I was as a little boy, feeling like the world is on top of me and only having a hope of tomorrow, to sitting up on a chair here and knowing that life is wonderful, was not always easy. When I went to the University of Wisconsin, I needed money. My mom didn't have any money to pay, despite the fact that she had lived in America. And so I decided to get a job. And I was looking for a job, and I walked into a company where I asked for the manager, and they gave me the name of Jerry and said, Jerry will be here. This 40-year-old white man walks up to me and said, as a matter of fact, we're looking for somebody. And I went, wow, this is it's close to my house. He's got a job for me. Now, I had gone through fifth form and done exceptionally well beyond what my teachers expected at Edwin Allen. We didn't have a sixth form, so I went to Knox College and did sixth form and did exceptionally well at sixth form. Nobody expected that, including the principal at Knox College. He did not expect me to do as well. I heard these stories, okay? So I left here as somebody who was set, to go to university and be somebody. Jerry took me back and said, come with me. And he walked me through the hall past all the beautiful secretaries smelling like flowers, And I thought, man, this is a nice place to work. I'm 21. And he took me down the hallway and turned right again and opened a broom closet and showed me buckets and mops and soap. He said, we need a cleanup man for the night crew. As a Jamaican man, I wanted to punch him in the face. I don't know if you understand what this means. What kind of person do you think I am looking for a job and you're going to give me dirt to sweep and toilet to clean? Really? Don't you know that I am going to university? Is it because I am black or Jamaican and look funny and sound funny? And I wanted to just walk out of the place. And a little voice said to me, chill. Why don't you see what happens? You can always quit tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I like, okay. And I was polite and I responded. He said, come tomorrow, let's do something. I went the next day and he gave me the floor to clean. At the end of the factory shift in the salad dressing factory, I had to wipe and sweep and clean the floor and clean the toilets and clean the ashtrays. And I'm dying.
Was only you?
No, there was a crew of 4, 5, 6 people working there. But I thought, you know what, I need the money and it's close to my house. Suck it up, man, you're too proud.
Yes.
And I sucked it up. This was not easy because there were times, I remember one day, I was in the hallway, wiping the hallways, and one of the secretaries just walked by, and she stepped like $1 million with her high heel, and had this perfume trailing man, and I mean blue overalls, water boots, and swashing them up, and I said, hello, but I'm just a little clean-up guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, geez, what am I doing with my life? Yeah? And it's not just that I'm doing that, because I've gotten used to the fact that I'm cleaning up and they're giving me some money for it, right? But I'm bored out of my mind.
Yes.
I have dreams, I have hopes and expectations, but my present reality is ugly, yeah? But it's constructive. And one day I stood up in that hallway, just trying to keep myself from going crazy, and I was talking to myself. And I began to recite Shakespeare to myself. Mm-hmm. And I'm sloshing the broom and the mop, and I go, the raven himself is hoarse, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Come, ye spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here and fill me from the nave to the toe, the crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood, stop up the access and passage to remorse, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it. Come, thick night, and pall thee through the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark, to cry, hold, hold. And I'm in earnest. Have you ever been in a space where you get a sense that somebody's around you? Mm-hmm. You get the sense that somebody's here, and I go, Shelly from the lab is standing behind me in a white coat going like this. And I'm embarrassed. I'm going, oh my God, I'm so sorry. She said, no, it's beautiful. Do some more. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Do some more.
And I'm going, no. Well, Shelley and I become great friends.
Did we learn all that Shakespeare at Edwin
Allen? What do you mean? Edwin Allen, I used to suck up the words off the book page.
Literally.
I could see, I could see the side. I could still tell you that soliloquy from Lady Macbeth was on the left side and it started here and it did there. I could see it.
It seemed like you have a photograph.
No, I forget all kind of things like my wife's birthday. I forget my own birthday. But the point is, as I tend to look back and philosophize, they say hindsight is 20/20. Mm-hmm. The way I have made it through life with unfortunate circumstances, as some people would call unfortunate circumstances, is to transport myself from my present circumstance to a future that is more desirable, or even a past that's more desirable. It is a secret in life that is not taught in schools. The way you got through difficulties in your life in the present is to transport yourself out of the present, and it's easy to do. Let me give you an example. I'm sitting in the dentist chair. Now, I tell myself I'm not afraid of anything, but I don't like dentists. I'm scared of needles. Give me tablets. Give me stinking tasting medicine. I'll take them. Do not touch the structure, as the Rastaman, my uncle, would say. Don't touch my structure with any needles. And I'm at the dentist, and I know it's going to be painful if they don't give me injection. So I'm sitting there, and they're coming with a needle. I close my eyes, and I leave the room. I'm not in that dentist chair anymore. I go on a boat in the Gulf Stream at Fort Lauderdale, and I'm standing on the edge of the boat, and I'm fishing for yellowtail snappers, and I'm standing there, and I feel the thing run out of my hand as a yellowtail takes it, and I'm doing this, and I'm excited, and in the meantime, I know something's going on here, but my mind is not there. I've actually transported from the present to a desirable future or past. And I wake up and okay, it's done.
Is that the same technique from the 400 BC man?
Well, no, he didn't have that particular experience. It's the principles of vision and law and word and so forth that I found there. I didn't even read it all because it was translated in broken English from the manuscripts of ancient Egyptians. But I saw my principles in his book. Yes. These are specific ways of highlighting the principles. My point here is there is a secret that is not, there's a series of secrets not taught in schools. And one of them is the power to go through stress without allowing the stress to go through you. And it is the ability that we have to take our minds to a place where we leave our body behind and get to a place that is much more enjoyable and tolerable. And when we get to that place, we can get through physically that which our minds don't want us to deal with. Yes. And that's a secret that it's extremely powerful to me. So I grow up learning these things that my grandmother had planted had come to life. I saw them happening in my life. I saw them happening in other people's lives. And then this thing took on its own life. I had quit. I was a consultant talking about retail management, teaching companies how to sell their products in stores and so on, flying all over the world. And then I thought, working with these guys, where I started out in the consulting business had become a business. There were 40 of us. They were organizing it. It was becoming another company. I didn't want that. So at the point then I wrote this book, and I decided, I'm going to go talk about the principles in this book. Something tells me there's money there because people have been asking me. And in the process, I found myself standing and doing empowerment and doing training and doing coaching. And the things that I've seen have been remarkable. The power of a word to change a life is underrated. One word from a judge sends a man to jail. Another word liberates the man to go home with his family. One word from a young man in the neighborhood causes another young man to take out a knife and kill him because he feels disrespected. Another word from a young man in the neighborhood causes a girl to fall in love with him. Word.
One word.
Word. And it's an incredible thing. I learned that from my grandmother. I want you to get this book and go to the law of word and listen to the story of how my grandmother taught me about the power of words. I shall never, ever forget this. It's a little too long to tell you in the story, but I have seen the power of word. Rather than telling you my grandmother's story, which was the seed, let me tell you about how it blossomed. In traveling around the world and doing all this stuff for pay, I decided to give something back. So once every 6 weeks or so, I'd go to the West Palm Beach County Jail. We live in Florida. And inside the West Palm Beach County Jail, after they closed many doors behind us, kind of a crazy thing, we'd stand in front of the inmates who'd been there for a day, for 6 months, for 6 years. And I would talk about a little bit of what's in this book. And I found that even for people who are incarcerated, and perhaps especially for them, who knows, for all kinds of people, the word is still powerful. One of the times when I went to the West Palm Beach County Jail and I'd finished my conversation, the inmates gathered around me and said, "Thank you, Mr. Day, thank you, Mr. Day," and shaking my hands and asking me questions. And a young man, about 38 years old, 5'5", his name was Curtis. They tell me not to say his name because the police people downstairs don't want to know this. He came and said, "Mr. Day, thank you." Shook my hand. He said, "Last time you were here, you saved a life." I thought, oh, that's good. I'm sort of making a metaphor and so forth. I said, "Mr. Day, you don't understand." He took me aside and he said, "Last time you came here, Mr. Day, I was going to kill a man. Something you said hit me in my belly. And I called my friend and put off the hit." Now, of course, I'm growing goosebumps in this place behind several doors inside there. He was going to kill a man, and he called his friend. People in jail have power on the outside. Have you noticed that? And he put off the hit. And I'm thinking to myself, good God, what did I do? You know this concept that I talked about, fire in the belly? Igniting a switch inside of the guts of a human being that affects what the human being thinks, believes, and does. And a little piece of what I talked about in this book caused a man to change his mind about killing another man.
Powerful.
I want to suggest to you that you read this book, but I'm going to warn you, this book will disturb you. It will shake you to the core about your life and what you think you've achieved. It'll make you hungry. It'll literally ignite a switch inside your belly. I have seen it cause a woman named Yvonne in Fort Lauderdale to write me a document to say that in 30 days of reading this book, she doubled her income. I don't even know how she did. I don't even know this. It's beyond me.
Ignited the fire in her belly.
I've seen a woman at a university change her mind about killing herself. And so the powerful word. Have you ever caught yourself in a moment and just had a snapshot of yourself and thought, oh my gosh, this is me, this is wonderful. Perhaps you're at Disneyland and you're thinking, this is so great, I can't believe I'm at Disneyland. Perhaps you're receiving an award and in a moment you see yourself walking across the stage and you think, gosh, when you consider where I came from, imagine me here. I've had that happen to me. This is bizarre. I'm in Bogota, Colombia, and I go to the airport and I have a ticket to London that I didn't pay for. And I'm at the British Airways counter and the woman said, may I look at your ticket, please, huh? And I give her my ticket. She says, oh, you go to the salon over here. And there's a red carpet and nobody in the line. Now I'm a Jamaican, I don't like lines, right? I'm happy. So I take this carpet, I walk inside on the carpet, and another lady looks at my ticket and says, you go right upstairs, sir. And I'm thinking, whoa, have you ever seen those planes that kind of have a little upstairs section with windows up there? It's nice up there. For the first time in my life, I'm riding up there in one of those first class seats way up in the air. And she takes my coat and she calls me Mr. Day and she offers me champagne. And 6 miles up in the air, this woman feeds me a 6-course meal fit for a king. And she brings the lettuce and the croutons and the oil in one bottle and the vinegar in the other. And she makes the thing in front of me and treats me like a king. And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if she knew that I was just a little nephew of a Rasta man with no mother and father, who was not expected to make it if she would treat me with any dignity. I wonder if people who like me for me, or they like me because they think I'm something. I catch myself in there and saying, wow, I can't believe that life has this side that it is willing to offer to me. And it almost overwhelms me with the goodness of that feeling. It's not a pride feeling, it's like, oh my gosh, it's me them treating like that. Who was not expected to make it from, and those moments flash in front of my eyes. I am in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I walk around my house and realize I count 123 light switches which are sitting on the wall waiting for me to do like that for light to come on, and I grew up for 20 years not having one light except a tiny lamp and a home sweet home. And I think to myself, wow, what I think it is to have dreams and to get up and work hard and go after those dreams. Nobody has your dream, you have it. You have to work it. You have to get up, and every time you fall, you get up again and go after it. And sooner or later, you break through the clouds that cause the rain and the ugliness. It is inherent in mankind's experience. And I want to tell you one story about that when we get there. But let's talk about going to England and going to these consulting jobs. Guess where this little boy finds himself? He finds himself today sitting or standing in front of a group of senior executives. For example, one of the largest banks in the Caribbean, the CEO for that bank hires me and gives me his 15 people who run the bank. They are general managers and senior vice presidents who run the bank, and my job is to come and teach them every month, 1 month at a time, over a period of 12 months, a curriculum of leadership competencies. The little barefooted boy who's not expected to make it, who used to doubt himself, stands in front of people who are smarter than he is and teaches them about the principles of life and success and business and profitability. And I catch myself every now and again. And I'm standing there and I'm talking about them. Here's what I discovered. You might think that the stress and the pressure and the pain is reserved for the poor little children who have no parents and have no money. But when you make it and have money, you're great. It is actually backwards. It is worse sometimes for the ones who are highly successful. They have the pressure of the boss and the stock market expecting miracles out of them. There are cutbacks and budget cuts and all kinds. They have to fire people they like sometimes. And if they slip, they're out of a job. And I'm there to say, hey, Let me teach you how you can go through the stress without allowing the stress to go through you. And talk about how the human mind works and how to garner energy that most people don't have, how to reinterpret and reframe reality. And these people smarter than me who know banking and know whatever their business is, they actually listen to me and take notes. I'm thinking, wow, well, they know that? I learned it from my granny when I was 10 years old. Well, you know, I have to add a little things to it. Right? And so what my work is today is to teach leadership. What it is like to find yourself in a crowd of people, and because you feel it in your belly, you stand up and you lead. Because most people don't want to lead. It comes with responsibility, it comes with risks and so forth. But to teach people how to get out of the crowd of being normal and average and routine and regular and mediocre and say, no, I was born for great purpose. It's my job, I'm going for it. And when I have that conviction, when I have that passion, when I start going after a dream that's clear before me, people follow.
Yes.
Because they're looking for something to follow, because they're not taught this in their regular schooling. And so that's what I do. I run around the world, I mess with people smarter than me, they like it, they pay me, and what can I tell you?
What has been your most difficult task assigned to you so far to change from a situation that was looking so gloomy and you turned that around? Have any memories of anything like that?
A very difficult task that I turned around. There are many, many cases of that, and in some of the cases I can't really take 100% credit, but I knew I had something to do with it. There was a company that hired me to bring its management team together because they were fighting. And they couldn't get anything done. The senior managers of the company, reporting to the CEO, would shut down the company almost to take care of a squabble. Well, he went over there and he worked on that, but it's my job and he's trying to mash up my business. He should not be there, okay? And they'd literally get through this fight and take 3 days when they should be running the business. And I walked in and I was very polite and I acknowledged their skill and so forth and began to teach them the principles of life and the fact that they cannot stand alone and the fact that they're not perfect. And the fact that they're going to die in their present situation regretting they didn't go for greatness. And I've just gone through all the various things. I teach them about productivity in adversity. I teach them how to do presentation skills to use presentation skills very effectively. I teach them how to run a meeting effectively so they don't just talk about it, but they make money. I teach them how and coach them about how to communicate with their people effectively. I teach them people skills, emotional intelligence, all that good stuff, one class at a time, and give them exercises. And then halfway through that process, I didn't make it all the way through, the company was bought by another company, or there was a merger. And I said to the CEO, you know, this is going to be a lot of trouble because there's going to be a lot of infighting and so forth. I'll come and do a free day with you. And the CEO said to me, Alvin, you don't need to. I said, why? He said, the effect of your first 5 months on this team is something that is amazing. They're actually one, they're actually defending each other, they're coming together as a unit. And he said, it's really amazing. After a fraction of that time, they'd actually congealed as one. They were not fighting anymore. And I thought, I didn't even know that was happening. I didn't think it had that effect. So it gave me hope that in very troublesome situations, if you're dealing with heart and belly stuff, you can make a difference. The problem is when we have our academic information, academia is good, we talked about schooling, but when we have things that are theoretical and conceptual and academic and we just train people on that, they could read that on the internet, right?
Yes.
If you want to move people, you have to get inside their bellies. You have to get where they feel deeply about it and touch that. When you touch the inside of the belly and make people go, oh my God, I can't die here. This is my objective in disturbing people. I cannot die here. You can't afford to die at your present level of accomplishment, because if it's 5 years from now and you have not changed or advanced, you're going to look back with regret. Is that true?
That's true.
You're not going to be satisfied with what you've achieved so far. You want more. The man behind the camera cannot afford to die where he is right now. If he's given more time, he needs to go for more. Am I telling the truth? You looking at me, if you should go 10 more years and be at exactly the same level you are, where you are with all the accomplishments you've had, and look back at your life, you would be a miserable, wretched soul for not having grown. And when we want to move people, we have to get to that place where the hunger lies, because it's covered up by professionalism and protocol and so forth. But unmask it and say, it's about your life. You're not a manager, you're not a supervisor, you're a human being who wants to live your life on purpose, so you can look back and be great and leave something for your children. Come on, get out of this funk. You can be better, you can grow. You have to study and learn and work and do something that will live longer than you.
Throughout the conversation, I've heard you mention a lot about the gut and the belly. What is so important about that section?
Don't ask that question, because you're going to get me going fast and furious. Let me just touch it. It's hard to touch this. I wrote a book called Persuasion Power, and I don't have one with me. It's about how the human mind works and how to get yes, how to get people to say yes to you. In that book, I talk about the research. We make a mistake in thinking that human beings retain information here and make decisions here only. Mm-hmm. Scientists are still trying to figure out the brain, so they're stuck on the brain. I have scientific research to prove from Emory University and other places of scientific learning that human beings retain information, recall information, and make decisions in more places than just the head. That the belly, inside the tripe or guts, that place has over 100 million neuroreceptors that retains information, makes decisions, and acts independently of the brain. And while the brain is like a database that keeps data and facts and information, the gut actually is the source of power, because it is where cowardice and fear and passion and drive and initiative lie. So when people know things, they don't have to activate them. I know PhDs who can't put $2 together. I don't have any street smarts. And I know people who don't have PhDs who have this gut feeling. You know, we say in our culture, gut feeling, it's more than a metaphor. There is actually intelligence in the human belly.
So is that one of the reasons why sometimes when you are nervous, you feel
butterflies in the belly? Because the nerves and the information in here tells you that you're in danger, and it makes you scared. Okay. So this is for academicians, it's for trainers, it's for parents. If you want to motivate people to do things, don't talk to the head, talk to the gut. Because they make decisions down here, and when decisions are made down here, they're power. Here is passive. It's just a recall. Now, you know, it has its very intelligent things that we don't understand necessarily, but we know now that we're seeing this here.
That we feed it here first.
Well, yeah, this one is where what is here comes into action sometimes. And there are times when this acts even without the brain. A gut feeling. And we've known this in our common language. There's a word in English called visceral, visceral. So it has a visceral effect, and what that means is it's like a strong, deep, inside belly feeling. And it's in the language. Scientists hadn't proven it yet, but the word visceral actually is from the Latin viscero, which means guts or tripe. So we've kind of known it, and now science is there to prove it. Now, it will not make it into the textbooks for a while because teachers don't know what to do with that. They're still struggling with the brain. So we've talked about a number of things. I want to end with one thing that is in this book, If Caterpillars Can Fly, So Can I, and just talk briefly about it. How do you go from unacceptable, below average, to a place of greatness in your life? And I would not be so pretentious as to tell you I know the entire answer, or that what I'm about to tell you is the only answer. It's one way. You know, you set out to go downtown, you can take a number of different routes to get there. But if you get there, that's what's important. And I'm going to tell you something that's very odd. One of the greatest pathways to becoming powerful and significant and high achieving is through the pathway of pain. Pain. Now, I don't want to say that sort of sadistically or sadomasochistically. You know, it's not that pain is good. Pain is bad. But pain has value that is highly underrated. Yes. I put it another way and tell you that failure has value that is highly underrated. People think that failure is a bad thing. And the pain and the embarrassment and the trepidation that comes with failing, the pain itself is good. One of the things that I teach in my classes and my courses is that when you say, I'm going to succeed despite adversity, you're leaving money on the table. You're not even getting close. Because if you succeed despite adversity, what you're saying is you're going to succeed even though there's something that makes it not so good. Yes. Here's one of the secrets. I don't succeed despite adversity. I succeed because of adversity. It is the pain that makes me succeed. Now, there's a chapter in this book called The Law of Good and Evil. And it's not talking about spiritual evil, it's talking about adversity. It is inherent in nature, as are all of these laws: vision, word, energy, abundance, good and evil, uniqueness, contribution. It is inherent in the law of good and evil, or the law of good and evil is something that is inherent in nature, that nature brings life out of pain. Let me give you an example or two of that. In the United States, as in any country, the people who are in the military, who have been given the charge of defending the borders and the freedom of the nation, are not the people who walk around in nice little tiny heels and fluffy, nice clothing and are delicate and walk around in malls. Those are not the ones that we give charge to run our country. Do you know who we give charge to run our country or to defend our country? As soldiers. We get youngsters into the military who come with all their pride and cockiness and so forth, and we rip off all their nice clothes. and we cut their hair. And we send them through a boot camp and we drill them hard and we put stones on their shoulders in bags and we have them run up mountains and climb trees and we shoot bullets at them and we teach them to run through water and to dodge through fire, and we give them this 6 weeks of boot camp that is like merciless. And then we send them to bed late at night after we give them food that lasts maybe 20 minutes and they have to eat fast, otherwise it's over. The whistle blows, they have to go to bed. And then before they get 6 hours of sleep, the whistle goes off and they start over again. And they're drilled and they're drilled and they're drilled and they're drilled. And the ones who make it, when they're done, they're hard to kill. And so a soldier stands, because the soldier has been there before through pain. We've inflicted pain on the soldier so the soldier can be powerful enough to defend the country. It's not the little soft mamby-pamby people who are fancy and worrying about fashions that we want to hold our country together and keep it safe from enemies. It's the ones whom we have inflicted pain upon so that they know what it's like to get through pain and still come out on the other side. Yes. Nature. Now, here's another piece of nature. Women are very sensitive about their bodies, true?
True.
And a woman will lie in a bed and allow 6 perfect strangers to look up her legs, poke her, push her, and scream at her with a big distension in her stomach. And when the pain hurts her, they'll tell her, no, push, keep pushing. She doesn't know these people, but she opens her legs to them. And she pushes and she pushes and she cries and she screams. And when she wants to just go, she says, no, push. And she pushes and pushes, and the last one, she can't make it, but she pushes at the crescendo of that pain. Baby comes out. Well, it's not that easy, I guess, right? The reason I tell you this dramatic story that happens every day in nature is, if you were an alien who did not understand the ways of the human mind, you might think that this thing inside her stomach that was causing her pain for 9 months, and now it gets to the place where she can't even bear it anymore. Now that the source of the pain is outside her, she might want to go away from it for a while just to comfort herself. Is that how nature works? No, mommy wants to grab the baby, she hugs the baby, she doesn't want them to take the baby, to clean up the baby, because the miracle of life that used to inflict so much pain upon her is so precious that she doesn't want to let it go. She hugs pain, and out of the distension and the pain and the heaviness and the excruciating suffering comes life. Life comes out of pain. And so the people who, when they go through troubles and trials and challenges and issues, want to run away and quit, they're running away from the very success that they're supposed to have. It is all over nature. The greatest athlete whom we've ever known for the 100 meters and the 200 meters is right now Usain Bolt. Everybody would love to stand. I've had visions of standing on that podium in front of thousands of people in the stands and have the cameras of 1,000 countries look at me as I put my hand over my heart and the national anthem of my country plays. And I am the representation in the middle where it is highest. And I feel great. Do you know what I wouldn't necessarily want? The punishment that he must give himself, running up mountains, stretching himself beyond his normal strength, getting his legs to hurt, denying himself of beer and all the kinds of things that we normal ice cream eaters would love to have. And day after day after day, he punishes himself and abstains from pleasures. And when he does that, his body becomes faster and stronger. It is inherent in nature that if you want pleasure, you must have a tolerance for immediate pain. Run from it and you're weak and floppy. Go through it and you gain power. It's not to suggest that we should love pain. It is to suggest that it is the order of nature. That if you want greatness, it will not come to you by lottery. In fact, the research shows that the people who are poor who win the lottery, 5 years later, they are poorer than before they won the lottery, because the money did not come to them and stay with them, because they didn't know anything about money. So when it came in a flood, it left in a flood. You have to go through the discipline and the pain and the pressure. And when you go through, you pick up something that is inherent in success. I hate pain. I'm a wimp. I told you about my dentist experiences, but man, I hang in there. As hard as it is in your life today, hang in there. You cannot quit. I want to tell you something that I want you to write down. Until the day you die, nothing you go through can possibly kill you. Put my name on that. Tweet that. Put that on Instagram. Think about it. Deny that if you will. Until the day you die, and you will die one day, absolutely nothing you go through can possibly kill you, because you die once. And if you know that, up until that point, you're going to live large out loud. And every time you fall, you're going to get up again, because it is not today.
Today's not your
Sooner or later, one of those times I fall, I'm going to stay down, and that's it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I will have lived my life fully up to that point, so I am not, if I have a chance, regretting it. But nothing can possibly kill me until I die. It sounds kind of silly, doesn't it? But because I know that, pain, come rain, come water, come darkness, I will hurt, I will complain, I will cry because I'm human.
Yes.
But after a while, I wipe my face and I go, okay, here we go again.
Yes.
I fall 1,000 times, I'm supposed to get up 1,001. In there lies success. Yeah, I've been referring to this book, If Caterpillars Can Fly, So Can I, and other books like Persuasion Power and so forth. If you want to get a copy of this book, here's how you can do so. Get a pencil, and I'll tell you how you can get a copy of this book. If you go to my website, www.alvinday.com, spelt like it is right here, alvinday.com, and you click on CDs, books, and audios, you will see this book selling for $20 US. It's very simple. And so you simply put your credit card in, this book will be there in a few days, but I must warn you, do not read this book if you're totally satisfied with your life. Don't read it if you don't want to be disturbed at a gut level, because it's going to shake you and make you want to fly. If you are satisfied with your life and complacent with it, leave it alone, because this book is going to make you want to take off. And I am telling you what I've heard from readers. And then while you're there on the home page, you may want to subscribe to my free 2-3 paragraph thing that I send out every Monday. It's called the Monday Morning Power Pack. There's a free offer about how to avoid failure in your life that's permanent. When you put your name and email in there, you will hear from me every Monday morning, and I will seek to disturb you a little bit before you go to work that Monday morning. It's called the Monday Morning Power Pack. I look forward to hearing from you. You will see me, contact us on the website, and I trust that you take off from here and soar to new heights.
Mr. Day, thank you so much for sharing with us.
Yes, sir.
We really appreciate you spending time with us.
Yes, sir.
To our viewers, I hope that pain in your belly, that fire is burning now for you to move from below average to extraordinary to greatness. Thank you all for tuning in another week for our series, A Story to Tell. Mr. Day really not motivated us, empowered us to go for extraordinary and greatness. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to our Facebook page. You can like. If you have your products to be advertised, the description below, you can check out the number for our WhatsApp group to be a part of that. Have a blessed week until we see you again.
I've got a story. I've got a story. I've got a story. I've got a story. Never love. Never love. She never love. She really don't. Never love. Never love. She never love.
Once again.
I've got a story. I've got a story. I've got a story. I've got a story.
Once again.